Unfiltered collective where healing has rhythm, grace has boundaries, and growth finally feels like home.
Welcome back, collective, to another episode. And again, we are halfway through season 2. And today we are so fortunate to be joined by Donna, who is, I know everyone thinks I have a million cousins. I really do, but Donna is another one of my cousins. I have the best family. I'll never take it for granted. But today's topic I am super excited about because I believe it's one that we can all relate to. So, welcome to my cousin Donna. Welcome, Donna. We are so happy to have you here.
Glad to be with you.
So, I'm going to start by introducing Donna, like reading a little bit about her. Donna has served faithfully as a licensed minister for 28 years, answering a divine assignment that God made clear from the very beginning. Her heart belongs to the ministry of women. As a Christian education director, she serves as a custodian of 6 ministries. Wow, that's a lot, cousin. 6
Used to
minutes.
be more than that, so it's cut down a little bit, yeah.
My goodness, my goodness. Providing training, structure, and resources that strengthen spiritual growth and equip believers for deeper discipleship. Donna's passion is rooted in a profound truth she has witnessed throughout her years of ministry, which, and many women relate to their heavenly father through the lens of their earthly fathers. Whether that relationship was nurturing, distant, or painful, it often shapes how women approach trust, intimacy, and even faith. Donna steps into that space with compassion and clarity, helping women heal from the wounds that make trusting God difficult. Her ministry creates a safe space for women to discover God or rediscover God as a father who is steady, faithful, and deeply loving. Through teaching, mentoring, and heartfelt connection, Donna guides women towards spiritual restoration, helping them learn to trust God even when trusting men has been hard. Her mission is to see women healed, whole, and confident in the love of the Father who never fails. So I told you that that was very, very beautiful and it's very true because I do think that so many of us, I know that's true. I know that just from my own experiences and just from the experiences of women around us, like our first, since some of us, the first love of our life is our fathers. And then for some of us, our first heartbreak can come from our fathers.
Yes,
I think that the work that you are doing is very important and very
yeah.
timely, and I'm so happy to have you here. Thank you for
I'm
saying
so glad. I'm
thank
so proud and blessed that you even asked me to come on.
I feel like it was a given. We just had to figure out, like, when you gave me when we spoke about the topics and you kind of when you said what you wanted to talk about, I was like, "Oh, this is going to be good." And Donna sent me a message, and I used the message that she sent me to frame the episode for today. So I am really, really excited. And if it's okay, is it okay for me to read the message? If not, I won't read it.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so the title of today's episode is Grace for the Woman That I Am Becoming. And Donna, this is a direct quote from Donna. It says, Grace is where I've lived for the past 2 years. It's a place that doesn't demand a perfect version of me, but welcomes the me who carries a flawed past and is learning to see purpose in the cracks. In Grace, I've discovered that even the broken pieces can reflect light. Only God's grace gives me the strength to grow into who I am becoming. So that was very, very beautifully stated. And I think it's something
Definitely.
that I can also relate to, but I don't know that I would have been able to say it as eloquently as you said it. It was very, very beautiful, written, and very heartfelt, just sincere. I know we always say this, but I could feel what you were saying. Like, I could feel it. So thank you for being so transparent
Pleasure.
and so vulnerable, and just willing to discuss it because I think that often we confuse what grace is. So if it's okay, I would like to start by having you define what grace means to you. And
The Bible tells us that grace is an unmerited favor. It's something that we not earn, I'm sorry, something that we receive without earning it. There's nothing we can do to have this beautiful gift that only God can give. When I think about, so many times how often I did not receive that gift in the manner in which it was being given until, if I may take you on a small journey with me, when I went through Lent 2 years ago. I sat down, I remember sitting in my living room and I was praying about going through the fasting for 40 days and I asked God that if he would just remove anything in me. My fast was, in fasting we give up food, we give up, drinks or watching television, whatever it is that hinders us from spending that time with God. But I wanted something different this time alongside of those things. And so one of the things I asked God, Deneen, was to remove whatever was in me that was a part of me that hinders him from being him to me. And when I start going through the prayer thing that I was going through, my devotions and my prayer walk and fasting from outside noise, God began to download in me.
Mm.
And let me tell you, that was a very scary thing. It was very awakening because he begins to show me a lot of the things that was hindering me from fully moving in the direction that he was leading me. And it was weird how awakening it had became. It was all, like I said, it was scary. These were things that I have, and I think that you have in your outline about that. These were things that I made excuses for,
Mm.
and that they were normal. They became normal to me. And
Mhm.
I functioned in abnormality so long and for so long of a time and so much that I had convinced me and my spiritual man within me that this is okay. I'm giving God, pieces of me that was what can I say? Giving him just pieces of me rather than giving him the total me. And we talked a little bit about that before when you and I talked on yesterday about being afraid to move in that realm. And that's where I was. And God finally let me know in such a way because I had completely opened myself to that, there was some things I just was not allowing him to become fully 100% in me. And I hope I don't sound like I'm rambling, but it's just the thing that I had to do was allow him that full reign. And when I tell you, it began to change me in a way that Deneen, I'm sorry, that I did not even recognize the name. I didn't recognize me anymore because when I tell you he began to change me, it was inside out. And let me tell you, baby, when the inside came out,
Mhm.
I didn't recognize the woman I was becoming. I did not. And so that began this journey of being so thirsty and so hungry to get to know the reflection that now God was showing me of me, but to get to know who I am. And oftentimes that's what happened in our lives, and especially as women, we wear so many hats and we are so much to others that we become dull shine to ourselves. And what I mean by that, we lose ourselves in the midst of being the mother, being the wife, being a sister, being a friend, being a confidant, being someone that someone else is in need of, to the point we lose that.
Yeah.
2 years ago, God gave me all of that back. But because like pores in our skin and we do the beautification treatments to open up our pores and that the bad oils and things may come out, God allow a lot of bad come out that he could restore and renew and replenish. And it was unrecognizable, unrecognizable. So with that came the weight loss, and some people thought maybe it was weight loss. No, with the inner man changing, it demanded the other things to get in the right alignment. You know, the healthiness, and it was just so that's where that journey began for me.
Wow, that's so beautifully stated. And I'm this is probably the third time I've said that. But it is. It's so beautifully stated because I think that often we try to like when we experience God, we think that it's going to change one area of our lives, but it really is holistic, right? Because he's
Yes,
a God that
total.
loves our whole man, not just one part, and he demands all of us. All
Yeah,
right. Like you said, you had it caused your health to fall into line and everything else, which ultimately resulted in the weight loss, which is something I can relate to as well, because those changes, like once you start working on your inner man, or you maybe not once we start working on, once we submit who we think we should be.
surrender. That's,
Surrender,
we
that's the word.
surrender. Yes.
Surrender, right.
Yeah.
Once we surrender, it does spill over into every area, and we do look a little bit different to ourselves and also to other people, so that's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. I know we talked a little bit about what grace is, but and I think that you may have answered this already, but what
Uh-huh.
made it feel real? Like, what was different about this time than any other time that you've encountered God and had an opportunity to experience His grace? What was
Well,
different this
in
time?
this, God began to reveal to me, there are so many different steps and level to grace. Does not mean, however, that there are rigid physical steps that we have to take. We might experience level 1 today, and a month from now, we experience level 5, only to experience level 7, later, and then level 2. So there's different things. But the one thing that I try to remind myself as I'm even speaking to other people about this, the one thing that I realized I believed in grace. I knew, let me go back. I knew about grace. I knew grace. I know grace. We always talk about his grace and his mercy. I understood that. I get it. I believe, I knew his grace. Then I went into a phase of believing his grace. Okay, yeah. His grace covers me.
Mhm,
It's a very surface type of belief. His
mhm.
grace covers me. His grace gets me through, different things. Okay. Then I exercise grace. And one day I heard myself, Deneen, when I was sharing with somebody about the beauty of God's grace, and I was telling them that grace is sufficient to handle anything that we may go through. And that word sufficiency literally start ringing in my head. God said, you telling her about the sufficiency, but you cannot fully activate in my grace because of your disbelief of the sufficiency. Because I knew, okay, grace is sufficient, but I didn't understand the power and the dynamic of the sufficiency in his sufficient grace.
Mm,
Meaning to me was revealed to me that I was not fully understanding that nothing is too big or too small that cannot be tailored by and remedied by his grace.
yes, yes.
That was the piece that was missing for me. I'm 62 years old. 2 years ago, I discovered and understood the fullness of the sufficiency of God's grace.
Mm,
And I've been preaching 28 years, but it was like, it just, it just like fell on me that I did not fully understand the greatness of his sufficiency. Let me give you an example.
mhm,
We oftentimes have different things that come up in our lives that, we are stumped by them.
Mhm.
It takes us by a great surprise. But if I understood the sufficiency of God to the depth in which He needed for me to get, I would understand that though it takes me by surprise, it doesn't take Him by surprise. Then the next part to that is my response. And after it's been revealed to me, okay, it takes you by surprise, but it doesn't take God by surprise. What is your response to that?
Mhm.
I didn't always respond with, okay, God, I know you got it. Okay, God, I trust you. Deneen, every day, and I was just sharing this with a elderly lady today. No, yesterday. No, today. I told her, I said, you know what? There's not anything that comes across my vision or my direction that I do not stop and say, God, I trust you in that. I
Mm,
don't even have time to think about it. I just say, God, I trust you.
just
And
automatic.
with that being said, it relinquishes all control to God. That then He recycles that back to me and gives me the peace in that.
Mm,
Immediately. And I was sharing with her, I said, I know it might sound strange when I tell you that something might catch me off guard, but when I stop and remember that God reminds me that it did not catch him off guard, and my response is to thank him and say, I trust you in this. And it's like a faded memory that happens that quick.
mm,
It is. And it's no magic to it. But it's just what you said a few minutes ago. It's surrendering. It's surrendering everything that teaches us and tells us to be afraid, to be guarded, to watch out. We take that to a whole different level and we use those things. The Bible tells us to be guarded. The Bible tells us to be, on watch, but we take it to a whole nother level and use it against God
mm.
rather than using it for God.
And not just using it against God, right? We use it against one another, right? We use it against one
Yeah,
another.
yeah,
Wow. Wow.
yeah. So then go back to the word grace. How is that grace is to be given, I mean, to be taken and to be given. So when we use it against one another, guess what? We're holding back the power of grace for that individual. And we'll probably get into that later. But it is important to know that God gives it to us for a purpose. Now, what is that
Mm.
purpose, you might
What
ask?
is that purpose? Yes. What is the
That purpose is so that you can give it away. You will become someone's breakthrough.
Wow, Grace. That's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. And that's good. I think that I can say for me personally, like I
Mm-hmm.
always say that the big things, I know how to submit things, surrender things, right? I think that for me, the biggest part probably is having young adult children, like surrendering because it's difficult to watch them navigate through life for me, and it's difficult to kinda step back and say, "Okay, I know that the same God that has me has them." And I think I can speak for my husband too, where we're learning to not actively parent, but just kind of guide them and pray for them.
Uh-huh.
One of my sons said, "It feels like judgment, it feels like I'm being judged," and it's like, "No, it's not judgment, it's concern." But I have to say, I have to tell my husband, we have to step back and we have to allow them to experience God in the same way that we did, because
Yeah.
become we hinder the process, I think, a lot because we try to
Yeah.
step in
Yeah.
and save and when it's not for us to do that, right? So I think that, like,
No.
when you say grace and it's like maybe that's what we're missing. Maybe that's
Uh,
the piece that's missing with the older kids, like, instead of just looking at it like, we're gonna step back, like, we're gonna afford them the same grace that we've been given and just kind of, let God be God. in their lives, ladies.
Yes, yes, you are so on it because oftentimes we stand in the place of God.
Do.
And then we scratch our heads and wonder why Jimmy Joe acts the way he does because we did not give them the opportunity to experience God the way we did. And then on top of that, we don't have the power that God has. Only God can go in there and do what God does. And so we try to intervene by, yeah, it's good to help your children. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. And I'll tell anybody, anything that I could do for my children, I will do, but I cannot take the place of God. There are just some things that God, and sometimes we have to allow them to feel the pressure so that they will be, I don't want to use the word forced, but they will have to have that talk with Jesus. They will
Mhm.
have to, we become their gods,
Yeah.
if we're not careful.
Mhm.
We do. We become their gods. We become their idol,
Yeah.
because they know I can run to mom and ask
And
mom
that's
for
it.
anything. And you would do anything. I'm sure you would. I would. But
Absolutely.
at the same time, it's important that they know you have those resources because there is a God in your life.
Absolutely. That's true. Very, very true. Very, very true. Very good. Okay. In the statement that I read, you said that grace doesn't demand a perfect version of you. Like, what does that mean for you? Like, what does that mean for your life?
Look, I hope that I can get through this without crying. I'm serious. That's just how sensitive that is to me. I didn't realize, girl, I didn't realize how much of me was the performance of me, the
Mm,
performing me. I didn't realize, Deneen, that I was a people pleaser. It's almost so shameful to even mention it, but thank God for his glory and I don't have to be
yeah.
ashamed about it. But
Yeah.
anyway, in doing so, there had to be a perfect performance in everything. By being a minister, I had to always watch my P's and Q's. I didn't want anybody to slip because of me, or I could not have an opinion or thought about a like or dislike without being considered judgmental. So I began to actually take on this perfection of people, for people in my
Mhm.
performance. And so it started because what the enemy does, what the devil does in that, he begins to start festering this spirit of it's never enough. Nothing you do is going to be good enough, or nothing you say will be sufficient enough, or to help in that situation, or what have you. But then you begin to be convinced by the devil's lies that you now are just unable to be good enough even before the eyes of God. So
Mm,
it becomes a performance of I'm gonna do that. You work yourself, girl, you work your fingers to the bones trying to keep up this performance, so to speak. And you don't even know that's what it is. You really don't, because again, you have that dull shine. You don't know, you don't realize that, you're doing it for the performance of people. You wearing yourself out. You are carrying a load that was never meant for you to carry.
mm,
To the point, you have become so heavily burdened by the unnecessary, if that makes sense.
mhm,
That, but God helped me to see in this journey, I don't have to be perfect for
mhm,
him to share his grace with me. I don't have to have everything together and cleaned up and just right, or have all the right answers, or do all the right things, or please all the right people. I don't have to do that to be still noted as a child of the Most High God. I don't have to do that. I don't have to perform. I can simply be who God has called me to see. Now, you watch what I said. I said I can be what God has called me to be. I didn't say I could be just me. I can be myself. See, oftentimes Satan will even use that term. I can just be myself. You can be yourself, but be it in the realm in which God has called you to be. Did I lose you? You looking
No,
Oh, okay. You looking like, "What is she
I am
talking about?"
no, I am listening. I am tuned in.
And
Like
so,
she is
when it came to that, the need, I have found, oh my God, I feel so much lighter
yeah,
knowing that God loves me
yeah,
in spite of my imperfections, in
yes,
spite of my flaws. And guess what? I might wake up Monday on the wrong side of the bed, but God said, I still love you, Donna,
yes, and
because He knows that that's not where I'm casting my tent. That's not my intention. That's not where I'm trying to stay in my life. I'm trying to every day, I'm trying to grow into this calling. I'm trying to grow. And the calling being not necessarily, I'm not talking about ministry or being a minister, but my existence as just a child of God. I want my walk. I want when I walk that somebody might say, she's walking like Jesus walks. Or when
mhm,
I talk, she's talking
mhm,
like Jesus. Those are the things Jesus would say, or those are the things that Jesus would do. But it's not based off of my performance in doing it. It's my spiritual, natural being, or should I say, my natural spiritual being. That's
natural
what I'm
spirit,
trying to
yeah,
say. That
yeah,
that's who that's and oftentimes we have strayed so far away from that, Deneen, that we are unrecognizable to even those around us, and
yeah,
most definitely ourselves. It's like looking in the mirror one day and you're like, "Who are you?"
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Wow, wow, that's a do you think that I always say, and a very good friend of mine and I, we were talking the other day, and she was saying how the weight of the world, like Black women carry the weight of the world on their shoulders. And I think that so many of us are people pleasers because it's what we've been taught, it's what's been modeled to us. So
Yes,
shifting from being people pleasers to now being God pleasers or wanting to please God.
yes, yes,
It looks
yes, yes,
different, right? It looks very different. Like I always say, I have enough for what God wants me to do. I don't have
yes,
any extra at this point in my life, right? You spend your
uh-huh,
whole life taking care of other people, trying to be everything for everybody. This
everything.
step in my life, God gave me enough to do what He called
Yes,
me to have
yes, and to do it well. That's
well.
the thing that we do. We mess up. We take on everything, all these things, and all that weight you were just speaking about. Your friend saying we take on all those things that when we start trying to do the things and use the tools that God has given us, they're not as sharp as they would be because we're so bowed down from all the other responsibilities that we have now taken on. It reminds me of a story. I'm an illustrator, but it reminds me of a story about a man that was going through town, and you might have heard this before, and he had a rock in his wagon, and a lady on the street asked him, "Sir, where are you going with that rock in that wagon?" And he said, "Ma'am, I've got to take this rock to the mountain because I've got to get it out of my way. It's in my yard and it's causing a lot of problems. I got to get it out of the way. Every time I come out of the house, I'm stumbling on that rock. Every time I open my door, it's that rock in my face. And today is the day I decided that rock gotta go." And so he was walking and she said, "Well, wait a minute. I have a couple rocks that I would like for you to take with you." And she went to her yard, she got the rocks and she put them in his wagon. And he began to walk off with the rocks in his wagon, his own included. And everybody he began to pass began to say, "Hey, I've got a rock." And after a while, the wagon was so loaded and so heavy that he could not even move the wagon any further to go to the destination of getting rid of the one thing that caused him so much grief. We do that every day. That rock being the things in our lives that causes us that unnecessary burden. Now, God,
Mhm.
it is good that we are burdened for certain things in life,
Right,
but
right.
it's not that we should take on every burden that comes to us,
Mhm.
Deneen. Or we'll
Right.
be like the little man in the wagon. I mean, with the wagon, that he had one purpose, and that was to get his rock to the mountain. And he could because he had been bogged down so much with everybody else's. So, what rock are you
Yeah.
carrying, cousin, that you're not able to now move your wagon?
Yep.
And that's what I ask every woman because we feel like we are natural, which we are. We are natural rock carriers.
We
We
are.
are. We
We are.
do that. And we are natural when it comes to, helping a sister out, you know. We are. But we have to be so very careful. And I ask God, if I'm asked to do a task, the old thing that it used to be in the churches when someone asks you, Deneen, I see that you could be over the usher board. Would you do that? And you said, well, let me pray about it. Say, let me pray about it. I just simply go to God. I don't have to tell them, okay, let me pray about it. Because oftentimes we say that we may pray, we may not. But
Mhm.
I just say, you know what? God, is this something you calling me to do? And you already know. You know from the moment that you were asked.
Yes. Yeah.
Because God loves us so much. He's the one that does the calling. He loves us so much that, and I'm trying not to get off board here, but he loves us so much that when God calls us to something, guess what? He calls us not only to something, but he tells us what that calling is. When
Mhm.
I was calling to the ministry, God had already identified what that call was, what it was to look like, what, he was asking of it, from it, in it. And
Mhm.
so I tell people all the time, you know, well, I'm not going to go off in that, but I was going to tell people all the time that, you know, to be said to say that you've been called, and then you say, "Oh, what have you been called to do?" And they like, I don't know what my purpose is. It's just not in God's order.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It says, "Whom he has called, what? He has equipped."
He has equipped. Yep. That's what it says. Yep. You're right. You're
I'm
right.
sorry, baby. I hope I
No.
answered
No,
that
no,
question.
no.
I'm sorry.
You did. You did. You did. You did. So you said something about pretending
Uh-huh.
that you were did you say I don't wanna
Performing.
misquote you. Performing. You said something
Yes.
about performing. So what version of yourself did you have to stop? Like, in what way did you have to stop performing? What did you have to let go of? And what did that what did it look like for you?
That's a very, 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 very good question. If I may honestly answer this,
Yeah. Yeah.
I had to stop being ashamed of the gift that God has called me to in ministry. I had to stop that crazy. As my brother used to say, that stinking thinking. The power in reaching young women, or my pastor tells me this all the time. I used to dial down my shine
Mm.
so that I could get along with others. I'm just going to tell you the truth. So that, what's the saying? You go along to get along. I was functioning in ministry. I was functioning as a minister, but I dialed down my shine, Deneen, because there were others that were intentional
Mhm.
about their dislike or discord towards me because they felt that shine. Does that make sense?
It
Or do I
does.
need to go deeper in
No.
that?
No, 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 I
Okay.
understand. Yeah, I get
And
it.
so I lived, so I had to give that. And one of the things I had to give away, you meddling now, by the way, but now I'm just playing. Now I'm just playing. One of the things I had to was my insecurities. I was so insecure. God said, I can't use you like this.
Mhm.
I can't, you know. But wait a minute, God. I haven't stopped preaching. I haven't stopped teaching. He said, "Yeah, but you're not, you're not bold in it." He was calling me to a boldness that humanly I could not make sense of, or no, I was afraid of
Mm.
because of the arrows by night sort of thing. Yeah.
Wow.
So that was one thing that I had to get rid of.
Yeah.
My unwillingness to, oh, here's a good one. My sometimes very judgmental behavior. Now, let me explain that to you.
Mhm.
My judgmental behavior came in this. When God called me into the ministry years and years and years ago, I thought He called me to actually go and beat over the heads of those that weren't unsaved and tell them there's a hell that's designed and fit just for you if you don't get your life together. And I became elevated in my calling to the point I thought that was my job, right? I've been called to preach the word, talk about salvation, the glory of God, His ability to save, and also that there was a hell to put them in. But what was missing in that? Did you hear anything that I just said to you? Did you hear anything about love? I didn't
No.
even, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I was hitting
Yeah.
them over the head, sending them to hell because of things they were doing wrong or did not equal up to my new life. Because as believers, sometimes we forget where God brought us from.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yes.
therefore, in the newness of my walk, you're going to get yourself together because I got a job to do. So I had to get rid of that judgmental behavior. And the one thing, Deneen, when I was when even before I started ministry, I love dressing anyway. I love that. And I used to wear the suits with the bling all in it. I wore back then hats, gloves, the shoes, and the pocketbook that matched. I had it all. And I had a young lady come to me one day and say, "You know what, Minister Donna, you would never be able to help me because you are so above me that you wouldn't understand the things that I have been through." I said, "Wait a minute, baby, hold up. If I could sit down and just share with you my life story and the things that I have experienced and the things that I have been through, you would see that I am you." And in that, it made me go into a walk and talk with God, even way back then about me. And God began to peel those layers and show me that, you know, and not that he has a problem with us dressing. He does not. This is my own conviction. Okay. It was time for me to come out of the suits, with the diamonds and the bling. And it was time for me to remove the big hat and all of that so that I can now experience being relatable and the relational part of ministering to, the ones he was sending me to minister to. And so I went for a long period of time where, those things were not a part of me. I even went through a year and a half. I don't know you would call it a fast, but I went through a year and a half of not even wearing makeup anymore. I'm telling you, I
Mhm.
did because I wanted them to see me. I wanted
Mhm.
them to, see the God in me, you know what
Mm.
I'm saying? Rather
Yeah.
than
Disrupted.
but
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, so I had to those were and God showed me that that was for the people. It was for the women. That was the task that, I had taken on that he had given me for the women. However, it was also for me, also for
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Wow. That's good. That's good. You said a lot there, and I'm hanging on every word. I'm sitting up here like, "What?" Because I think
if
there's
I
so
get to
much of it
talking too
is
much, baby, just say, "Hey, wait a minute, stop that."
no, 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 it's great and it's so relatable. Like, there was so much in what you said, and I think that we all can relate to it to one degree or another because oftentimes we stop at salvation, but the
Yeah,
other piece of that is discipleship, right? Like, it doesn't just end with that's just the small that's a small part of the process. Like,
yeah,
we are called to discipleship, right? Like, we are, like, we have to and it's a process. We grow to
yes,
become
yes,
more Christ-like through our
yes.
walk. Wow, that's huge. So that's what I heard. Like, I heard your process for disciple how God was molding you and creating you into his image and just removing everything that you once thought was important.
Yeah.
And I think that we all experience that to one degree or another, whether we're honest about it or not. So thank you for sharing that. How have your broken pieces reflected light?
Okay, I'm sorry. Could you repeat that?
How have your broken pieces reflected light? Like how have you allowed or how have you and I think that a lot of us are very uncomfortable with sharing or being vulnerable enough to share what God has brought us through or to share our brokenness with other people because I don't think that we often realize that that's the message, like, that we are still here in spite of that brokenness. Like, how have yours been able to reflect light and also draw people closer to Christ?
Oh, it has taught me my worth
Mhm,
and understanding that there are two different brokenness.
mhm,
There's a brokenness that allows God to come in and do the mending that causes the transformation in our life. And then there's the brokenness of the loss of hope, where there's no hope. And we know that where there's no hope, there's nothing. I mean, if you
mhm.
lose hope in everything, there is absolutely nothing. So that's the
Yeah,
reason why I tell people don't lose hope, even in becoming that better person. Never lose hope in what God can do and is doing, even in the midst of your brokenness. And I'm glad you brought that up. This is so God. I want to. I'm an illustrator, but I got to share this with you.
okay.
I want to tell you about. I don't know if you are familiar with the term kintsugi. Kintsugi. Are you familiar with the Japanese term kintsugi?
No.
Well, kintsugi is an art in which the Japanese people take items that were worth something to the individual that owned it, but it when it became broken, it was worth less. And kintsugi, what it does, and I brought for illustration, it's amazing you talk about this. Kintsugi is where the item becomes broken and is mended together by real gold. See the vein is mended together, it's put together, and I'll use the term glue, but it's not glue, but it is the pieces, no matter how great, how small, they are strategically placed together, and this hot metal, this hot gold goes in and causes the fusion to place the once brokenness together. Ooh, I'm getting ready to shout out of here. You got to give me,
Listen,
girl, wait a minute.
right with you. So
It takes what was broken and that was no longer valuable and makes it more valuable because of the gold within it. That's what God does to our brokenness.
Mhm.
Anything that we've been through, and girl, I can see here you don't have the time, nor do you have the guts to listen to the things that I have endured in my life, or
Yeah,
have had to happen in my life that would
yeah.
make me feel so worthless. Let me pipe down because you said no
No.
preaching. I read that
No,
where it
no,
said no sermon, no preaching. So let me pipe down. But
no.
he took what was worthless
Yes.
not only to those around me that tried to make me feel like I had no worth, but
Mhm.
now the enemy, the devil, used it to convince me they were right. I have no worth. And
Yes.
he began to allow the blood of
Yes, husband.
Jesus to mend me and put me back together and show me that I was worthy of
Yes,
being called daughter of God, that
yes,
I was worthy to receive the love of Him. He
yes,
filled my brokenness with the value of His blood, and He
yes.
put me back together again. So now I walk in his worthiness.
Mhm,
I walk in his love. I
mhm.
walk in his potentials. I walk with his intentionalities of what I am to do. I believe it now. I understand it. And can't nobody convince me otherwise.
Listen,
Girl, we need to
listen,
put this on pause. I need to go to I need to
listen.
run around here for a minute. Can't nobody
Yes. but that's what it's that's what it's for, right?
Yeah,
Like, that's
yeah,
what it's for,
yeah,
and
and that's grace. That's
that's
grace.
grace. That's
That's
grace.
grace. So
That's
you see what
grace.
I'm saying? I am, woo, glory to God. I'm dressed in grace.
Yes, dressed in
I
grace.
don't have on no raggedy pajamas, no
Yes,
house shoes. I will in a few minutes, but I don't know. I am dressed in his grace, in
yes.
his likeness. What's the term? Thank you, Holy Spirit, bring that to me. What's the term we use often? That's just who I am. God knows my heart.
God knows my heart.
Well, you ought to be afraid. You ought to be real, real afraid. But jokes aside, he knows your heart, but
Knows your
his
heart.
grace is sufficient. He's waiting on you to know his heart. That's the thing. That is the thing. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry, girl. But when I get to
No,
talking about the goodness of
no,
God, and
no,
I'm not
that's
apologizing
important
for
though.
that, but I know that you have a certain allotted time for this, and I'm sorry.
No, no, that's okay. Don't apologize. That needed to be said because I think that so many of us spend so much time grappling with shame and we allow the enemy to talk us out of what God has already spoken
Yeah,
over our lives. And
yeah,
I don't think
yeah.
we do,
Do you
right?
know the
That's
power you just spoke there? You just spoke some powerful stuff right there.
listen, I know because I've been there. We've all, you go through things in life, especially, once you get to be a certain age and have lived experiences, we will allow what's happened to us or what we've done to make us think that we are not worthy.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
God, but
But
that
God.
grace, that
Yeah,
grace,
yeah, yeah.
that
Grace
grace.
is a
So,
very beautiful thing, very beautiful thing.
yeah,
And thank God grace, has a twin. I mean, they go hand in hand, mercy.
mercy.
And, if you have been fortunate enough to experience God's grace, and I'm sure that you have, it is impossible for you not to exercise the mercy that comes with grace, to others, to your
Mhm,
children, to your
mhm.
husband, to your friends, and watch this, to your enemies, even.
To
Oh
your
my
enemies.
God. It's a beautiful thing. And then you
Mhm.
can walk out, girl, you can walk out after you done crossed one of your enemies and you gave them the grace of not acting the fool, cutting the fool like you used to cut the fool and say what you want to say and use some choice words and all that kind of stuff. You walk out, God, you did this. You did this. Nobody but God.
Nobody but God.
That's it.
Nobody but God. Nobody but God.
That's it.
So we spoke about because I really wanna because I know that there are women listening to this who are there, who are stuck and grappling with shame. And you said in the beginning that for you it started with surrender. Like it
Yeah.
started with surrendering all of
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah.
And being open to receiving the
Yeah.
grace of
Yeah.
God. So it
Yeah.
starts with surrender,
Yeah.
right? Like that's where, if you find yourself trapped and just
Yeah.
replaying it over and over
Yeah.
again, we have to surrender. I don't think that we are well, I know that for a while I didn't, and I don't know the exact scripture, but it says to take every thought captive. Like,
Yeah.
like that's not like and it's a process and it's not
Yeah.
easy to do, but we
Yes.
have we have to learn how to just grab them and surrender them. And then once we let go, but God is waiting for us to let it go first, right? Like we have to surrender it
Yeah. Yeah.
in
And
order to receive
that
it.
comes with the growing, it's an unmerited favor to be given that grace, but it comes with growing in that favor, in its totality of when you begin to grow in that favor, you are persuaded, that this is God, you know. And I would tell if I had the opportunity to tell a million women or just one, I would say, sister, stop being shameful. Stop being ashamed of your past. Your
Mm,
past has nothing to do with your present. And stop letting the enemy tell you because of your past, this is all you'll ever be. because it's something greater on the other side of that shame.
Yeah.
Stop being so afraid to trust God, to love God, and most of all, to believe God. Now, I'm not
Yeah.
just saying believe in Him, but believe Him for every promise that He's made. And
Yes.
He has made many. And He can take your shame and put it on a platform
Mhm.
to minister, to teach, to lead, to equip. He can take that shame and do some mighty things. And then I would also remind her, sometimes it's not pretty how we get to where we get to. But when we get to where we get to, we understand the ugliness of what we had to go through
Yep.
to get to what we got through. And so it's important to be reminded. It might look ugly right now. It may not look like the road that I choose, but it does still, and I will still give God the glory in it. And so it's just important, and that's one of that is the biggest, Deneen, the largest silent killer there is, and that is shame.
Mm.
Not only do people shame us, but we shame ourselves.
Ew.
We live
Yep.
in shame.
Yep.
And so that
Completely.
becomes a silent killer. And because of that shame, we don't verbalize it. We don't talk about it. And it goes back to what I told you, that I knew without a shadow of doubt the guy who called me to the call of women in ministry, because of the fact, women are so easily now. Back in the day, they witnessed so much go on with their elders and things like that, that they drew strength from them, and it was not something that was hidden from them. Now listen what I'm going to say here. But we as women now, we tend to not talk about the things we've been through, and we bury
Right.
them deep. We don't share them with our daughters, and we don't share them with our nieces, or with one another, and we bury it so deep that we are so buried in that shame that they can't even grow in strength in learning how to deal with those things. And so it becomes a generational curse,
Generational curse.
dealing with the shame. No, not dealing with the shame, actually hiding the
Not
shame.
dealing with it. But you're
Yeah.
dealing with it anyway because it always manifests itself.
Yeah.
It always manifests itself. So
Some
you're
kind of
right.
way. It does. It even, and I tell young women this all the time, and people don't believe it, but it even manifests itself in our pores, in our physical, looks, and it does even in the way we walk.
Yep.
We can walk bent over because we are so burdened with shame that we literally are bent. And I remind myself often, if I find myself bending, I said, I refuse to break. And I take my posture and I
Yes.
stand back,
Yes.
because I don't want that to become, a reflection of anything that might be spiritually in me that needs to come out, that needs to be purged. I don't,
Yeah.
I want to purge it. So yeah, you're right.
And, sometimes we don't even realize, like you said, we sometimes are bent over because we are carrying so much. We don't even realize that we're bent over because we used to walk in that way. Like, we don't even realize it. It's just something that we're used to doing. So
Yeah.
thank you.
You know what? I was like, when you said that, I had to laugh because I passed the ice cream aisle the other day, the big glass doors, and I saw myself leaning on the cart, girl, pushing the cart, leaning. I said, and so, like you said, sometimes we're walking in life and we don't even know we're
Don't even
bent
realize
over.
it.
We don't even know why we're bent over. And I knew when I looked over in that freezer, I was bent over for no other reason but being lazy. I was getting, I don't know, but it quickly made me stand erect. And
Yep.
so, we have to recognize when we are spiritually in a place of being bent, and we have to do what we have to do to stand erect in the favor of God.
Yeah. 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 And that's another example of surrender, because I know so much of, like you said, with the illustration with the man in the wagon, so much of what we are carrying, it's not ours to carry. It was
It's not,
never ours to carry. It was never ours to carry.
it
So
was not.
Thank you, cousin. We are at time.
Thank you.
I'm so glad and I'm so appreciative that you said yes because and we kind of talked about this briefly.
Uh,
And so many of us are separated from the church. And as a result, and even, we have a limit or a wall up with what we think God can do. And I
uh-huh,
think that it's important for us to hear from people who have managed to remove those limits.
uh-huh.
And I think that it's important for us to bring other women, and I'm probably gonna edit this out, but I'm gonna tell this to you. God has been dealing with me on church hurt and reconciling women back to the church, because there's a lot of trauma there. There's a lot of trauma there.
Yeah,
And this is the first step in that. And I think that it starts with surrender and it starts with receiving God's grace. So thank you. Thank you
you're
so much.
welcome.
Thank
You're
you.
so welcome.
You have any final words that you would like to share?
Again, I just ask God's grace and mercy to cover you in what it is that you are bringing to the many women who sometimes don't know what it is, and sometimes all they need is conversation, just like
Yep.
this, you know. And so I thank you for allowing God to use your tenderness and your, as I said yesterday, brilliant in doing so. But no, I just pray that you continue and that may God open many, many doors in this for you. And again, thank you for inviting your old country cousin Donna to spend time with you. And it's just amazing, again, just amazing what you're doing. And you may not see the fruits of your labor yet, but they're coming. They're on their way. Trust
Thank
God. Just
thank
repeat to yourself in the midst of, and I know there are times you might say, "What in the world am I doing this for?" Just say, "Deneen, trust God." And then say, "God, I trust you."
Yeah. 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 Thank you. Thank you, cousin. Thank you. Okay, collective.
All right.
That's it. We are here at the end. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow. And Donna, if someone would like to, well, we didn't talk about your book, did we? We didn't talk about your book.
No. Oh, that's another thing God is doing, girl. I'm afraid. I was afraid of publishing my book. So afraid. Cowered down. And I shared that with you, what,
Yeah.
last year? Still
Yeah.
haven't published that book. But guess what? This is the year. It will
This
be
is
published this year. This
okay.
is the year.
Okay. Okay.
And
So,
I think I was cowered down because, again, my feeling of unworthy to
yeah.
be able to tell the story. But the book it's called The Front Porches of My Life. There were many things, I'm sorry, lessons learned on the front porch. That's book two, The Front Porches of My Life. There were many things that had transpired and taken place on many, many porches that some of the things were beautiful. Some of the conversations were beautiful. Then there was some very, very troubling thing. And I was afraid of that. I was afraid. I was really afraid to publish that, but it was given to me to do, and so now God has given me,
doing it.
yeah. So it's on this year. It's coming this
Okay. So keep us posted and then because we'll share it here, we'll share the link so that we
year.
can
Okay.
all get
Well,
Donna's book. We can all get Donna's book. But thank you. Thank you so much, collective. I love you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow.
Welcome to the calm and cultured collective.